Hey, everybody. This is Derek Day, and welcome to the Forward Podcast, where we are moving forward at the speed of thought. And today, my special guest is my friend, my brother, Karl Forehand, who is the author of The Tea Shop. And I believe that this is going to be released on the 22nd. So I want you to all make sure that you go out to Amazon, that you go to Choir, that you go to wherever books are sold and get your hot, happy hands on this book because it will absolutely bless you. So Karl, welcome again to my little slice of heaven.
Yeah, glad to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Good to have you back. Appreciate you suffering through all of the technical difficulties with me, and I want to make sure that I bring that out because I'm a tech guy, and
hmm
and you know it's interesting when you have to be your own tech support.
Yeah, and it's like the guy and the mechanic, with his cars.
Yeah,
It's there's always more issues with the tech guy. So, but it seemed like all day today I had technical issues with everything,
yeah.
and did a podcast in between the one we were going to do and the one we're doing now, and it had technical issues for no reason at all. So,
Wow,
whatever. We'll just keep pushing on, right?
that's the deal, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. This is this book, and I'm reading from the back cover. And this is a quote from Thomas J. Ord, who is a major thought leader in theology. And it says, "The Tea Shop takes readers on a journey of discovery that makes a difference." And I'll tell you something, I'm going to just say this to kind of lead in, is that reading this book, I got a sense of your physical journey, where you were physically. I got a sense of your emotional journey and how this impacted your psyche, your feelings. But I also get a keen sense of your spiritual journey. And
hmm
you're one of the people, I love your spiritual journey and the trajectory that is taken. And so tell us about, first of all, where you were when all of this happened, and let's take it from there.
Okay. So, yeah, we were in Taiwan. My son lives there. He's been there about 5 years. He's getting ready to, I don't know, he might uh, apply for citizenship and start a school there. Now he's happy there, is what I'm getting at. And so, a few years ago, I visited him. And then last year or 2 years ago, Laura and I went to visit him. And I put out a meme the other day, and the meme said, "Are you like me?" And I think we're all alike in the sense that we want to be the hero of our story.
Sure.
And uh, for me, that was in working harder than someone out, the next guy. It was in planning, and if I could just plan all the things, if I could get the planning right. And that was kind of the attitude I went into this vacation. I, it was supposed to be um, fun, you know, but I'd ruined vacations before planning, with too much planning. Then when the planning doesn't work, you're mad at the kids and everything else. But I know there are other people like me that, overplan. So I overplanned this vacation. Then right away it begins to fall apart. The car wasn't at the airport. The hotel wasn't reserved. And I had been trying to make sure all this happens right when we get there so that we're going to have a good time, dang it. And so, when it started to fall apart, then I'm in despair, and I'm missing what I'm missing when I'm despairing over my plans that didn't work out.
Mm.
Is I'm just, while I'm doing that, I'm missing adventure that I could be having. We had to walk 2 miles through Taiwan streets, but we had never been,
Yeah.
We never had that adventure before. Why didn't we enjoy it? Well, just not like we thought it would be. And I know a lot of other people are like that. So I think before we get into too many specifics, I think a lot of people, if they'll go on this journey with me, they're going to see themselves in the journey. And I hope that we can be a guide as they come along on my journey, for them to find out what their true adventure is and what their invincible preciousness is and those kind of things. So that's the hope for the book, is that it's pretty transparent. It's pretty, honest about my feelings and how I mess it up and how I misinterpreted, but then how I found this amazing gift in a tea shop with no name and a guy that I don't even know what his name was.
Well, before we get to the tea shop,
Yeah.
let's talk about the accident, because
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how sometimes accidental incidents yield intentional results.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I took away from this, because this begins, like you said, the rental car wasn't there and all of that, but the story actually begins with an accident. Tell us about the accident.
Yeah, for sure. So we wanted to go to the south part of the island, Taiwan, and up in the northern end is Taipei, like Zhongli, where my son lives, and those more populated areas. But we wanted to get down in the southern area where Taroko Gorge is and some of those things. And my son said, let's just rent scooters. So we kind of planned that ahead of time. We went driving around on the scooters, and we were doing well. And my son had a little too much confidence in me. He didn't teach me which brake was what. So when Laura got on with JD, my son, we came to a stop light, and I thought we were going. So I kept going. But then when I realized we were stopping, I stopped, but I stopped with the front brake. And my wheels locked up. Yeah, and I went flying over the handlebars. Just still have scars, on all the parts that hit the cement and skidded across it. It wasn't anything serious, but the scooter's wrecked. It's been up, and I'm thinking this is just it. It's over. The vacation's over. It's money we didn't want to spend. It's not the way we planned it. And they at the scooter shop, they said they'd rent us another scooter, but I was messed up after that.
You were done after that.
Yeah, so I was done, and that kind of began, the second part of the adventure, where we went to the gorge. Instead of driving around the top of the gorge, we got to go down into the gorge and walk, and met some indigenous people and a lot of things like that were good. And we're kind of starting to appreciate that little by little, and seeing some positive things come out of the vacation in my mind. But then the real adventure began later when we got to the tea shop, because of this wreck, because we had to kind of cut that southern part short. We went back north, and after dinner ended up in a tea shop, looking for some souvenirs, but finding something totally different than that.
And it's funny that before we actually get into the introduction of the tea shop owner and the tea shop, when I'm reading the book and I'm thinking of this guy, and he's the guy, mysterious, no name, but cordial, congenial, and all of this. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you've seen the movie Ip Man, but Ip Man is a martial arts film that chronicles the life story of a man, Ip Man. And basically Ip Man's claim to fame is that he was the teacher of Bruce Lee. And so when I'm thinking about the tea shop owner and his grace and his accuracy in preparing the tea, I'm reminded of Ip Man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've talked to some other people in Asian countries, and they say, there's an art to that. There's a ceremony kind of thing to
Mhm.
the tea, yeah, he was definitely like that. There's a lot of grace to his movements, a lot of intentionality, even though he's this joyful, kind of halfway playful type of person. Yes, this guy is, he's dressed in modern, kind of modern clothes. He's not doesn't have anything, ceremonial or fancy on. Just that he has normal clothes on, but he moves with precision. He moves with grace. He, I say in the book, he moves like a young man.
Mhm.
Even though he's probably 60 or so. Um, it was just delightful. Nothing else to say really. Just that he's a delightful host for the time we were there.
So let me ask you this, because like I saw a beautiful picture of humanity in the tea shop owner, and what I mean is that in him I saw an idealized version of humanity, that what humanity would look like if it were humble, graceful, youthful,
Mm.
focused on the delivery or the service, instead of the whatever accolades he could receive.
Yeah.
And so just kind of wanted to touch base on that, because that was something that I saw in the tea shop owner. I was really fascinated by him as a character in the story. But here's the one thing that I thought was really interesting, and you and I, we talk a lot about mystical Christianity or mystical faith base, and so part of this journey into the tea shop, the events prior to and after leaving the tea shop, you actually enter into a mystic realm, and you're using the tea shop as the springboard into the pool of this mystical adventure. So I kind of
Mhm.
want you to talk through that for me.
Yeah. I think it's like, any good adventure is that there's there's the part that you imagine that doesn't go like you imagined. Then there's the part that was tougher than you imagined, and that was the first part. But then what there's always the part that totally surprises you. It's like an
Mm-hmm.
unfolding or where everything, we walked out of the tea shop saying, what just happened? I don't know what that was, but it was kind of like it was being revealed to me that that this guy was, in a sense, was showing the divine to us in the way that he acted, in the way that he treated us, in the way that he delighted in us, and the unconditional love he had for us. And people, even the editors said, what, maybe he's just being a good customer service guy. So it was way beyond that.
Yeah.
This was something that he was used to doing. It was something inside of him where that I would call it, other centered, self-giving love. He genuinely was delighting in us. That's one of the chapters in the book. He
Yeah.
was genuinely loving us. He was trying to make us happy, and he wasn't. Sometimes we talk about washing feet and things like that. But sometimes we talk about that like, well, I'll suffer and I'll wash your feet, because that's what I'm supposed to do. He wasn't operating from
It wasn't a
a
have to do. it,
no, it
it was
wasn't a mindset like
right.
that. Like this is the good thing to do for the foreigners. He he just it was just what he did.
Yeah.
I said in the book that I was the one that was surprised by this. Right.
Mm.
This wasn't new to him. It was the way he was, and it was just that he was, and the two words I use nowadays, I say, be where you are and be who you are, be present and be authentic. And this guy taught me about that.
It's funny that there's something that it's been resonating in my spirit lately, and I say, be here now.
Mm-hmm.
Be here now. And so when I think about you, and I think about Laura and JD and your other hosts there, and
Mm-hmm.
how there is a sense of being present in the midst of this, that because a lot of times, we're physically here, but
Mm-hmm.
our mind is somewhere else, our heart is somewhere else. But there was something about how you guys were in the moment, and you were this was you were almost taking like a snapshot of this moment. And and it's funny, you were talking about the tea shop owner, and you talked about washing feet. And as I'm reading this, and your experience in the tea shop, I'm just waiting for him to disrobe and gird up with a towel
Mm-hmm.
and begin to wash feet, because that was so characteristic of who he was.
Yeah.
And so, but again, where I want to go with this is I want to I want to go from the tea shop is like the springboard. And I say this to people all the time, like that, like a lot of people are really into the Bible as a authoritative document.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Bible comprises the whole of everything they know about faith. But what I say is that the Bible is more like the springboard into the deep end of the pool of the Spirit. and,
Mm-hmm.
and so the tea shop then is a springboard into this mystic immersion
Yeah.
that you have. And I want you to walk us through that.
Okay. So when Paul says that the Bible is useful, right? That's what he says. He didn't say anything more than that. But he says it's useful. Okay, it's useful, but deep religious, deep spiritual experiences never happen when you're discussing doctrine.
Hmm.
Deep things happen when you're present, and deep things happen when you're authentic. And that's what this guy's teaching me. And we didn't. I wrote a chapter in the book, kind of wrestling with evangelism. Should we even do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is 2 years ago, so I'd say, I know what I'd say now. But should we even do that?
Yeah.
We didn't talk doctrine. He didn't say these are the tenets of Buddhism. If he's even a Buddhist, I don't know for sure. Still, probably. We didn't say, you're wrong and I'm right. With George, I use a few songs, the song Into the Mystic by Van Morrison, but
Mm-hmm.
also the song What I Didn't Do by George Jones.
Yeah.
What I didn't do is assess him, try to convince him, try to convert him. And he didn't do that to me.
Yeah.
He was sharing his yoga practice with me. He was showing me how he could balance on top of a stump. I don't know if that picture's in the book, but physically with his hands, showing me his yoga practice and writing characters for me. It was really special. I don't know how to explain that very good, but he
Now,
just wrote
a lot of Christians would be frustrated with that, because you just talked about yoga, and you talked about it in a very positive light.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking at the grace of this man and his practice of his yoga, I'm sure that you saw a spiritual balance, a spiritual energy that was in that we don't see in
Yeah,
in our practices here in the West.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's a lot of things, and as he moved through, he's writing characters for me. He's finding peanuts for me in the back. He shared his supper with us, and we spent an hour and a half together. but it's a combination of he was delighting in us, he was loving us, he was uh, in some ways serving us.
Mm.
You know, he's trying to find out, what we liked so that he could somehow make us happy. Yet he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a people pleaser. He knew who he was. There's 3 or 4 people sitting around listening to him. He's kind of like the village elder or whatever, or a shaman. But he knew who he was. Yet he was so interested in me that I was tearing up later in the night, just going, man, this is different than what I've experienced before. That he genuinely wanted to be with us, wanted to spend time with us, wanted to be present with us and share himself with us, share his practices, and share his food and the very basics of life, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm really moved by stories like that, because I really believe that, we talk about money and we talk about possessions and things like that, and at the end of the day, there's nothing more precious than the moment,
Mm-hmm.
the now. Because I could say, well, Karl, that's a nice shirt you're wearing. Can I borrow it? And you can say, well, sure, Derek. It might be a little small for you, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so or I could say, hey, Karl, lend me $20, and you can lend me $20, and I could return your shirt. I could return the $20, but this 1 second, this instant, this one slice of time
Mm-hmm.
that we all collectively own, you know and that's what I think is really remarkable about the tea shop, is that you were in the now with the
Mm-hmm.
tea shop owner, with Laura, with JD, with your
Mm-hmm.
host, and you're all in the midst of this now. Everybody's experience is different,
Sure.
because I'm sure JD had a different take on this, and Laura had a different take on it, and your host had a different take on it, and then the tea shop owner himself, he had a different take. But all of you are sharing this moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, I know in Christian tradition we like to talk about breaking bread, but man, talk about breaking time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was going on here. You guys
Yeah.
were just really embracing and immersed in the now.
Yeah. And I was in my infancy as far as that subject goes. I just barely knew enough about it to go, well, maybe I should just stop and slow down and listen. Someone, I think yesterday or day before, said it would have been real easy for you to say, no, I can't stay and have tea. Right. But something said, just slow down a little bit. Um, Nothing else is working right on this trip. you know Take some time, slow down, and then very quickly I began to see what might happen if
Sure.
I did. And so then I'm invested, and then um, things just began to bless me, for lack of a better word, but to kind of move me, and then I'm in. I want to hear, and I look over at Laura. She, of course, is paying attention.
Mhm.
She's there. She's here, and my son the same way. So,
So if you were to share something, a really pivotal part of the tea shop journey, something that you think that the majority of people, that if they see this, that it would be pivotal, changing, really something that takes them off the beaten path, just like you were taken off the beaten path.
mm,
What is it specifically in the book that you could point to that would be a pivot like that?
um, uh, there's something that I didn't learn just in the tea shop. It started in the tea shop, but I didn't learn it. It's still something I'm trying to discover. But it's a phrase called invincible preciousness.
Mm.
Um, And I think that's within us. The contemplative friends I have say that there's an eternal part of us that's untouched by the ego and sin and whatever you want to call that. There's a deep part of us that's invincibly precious.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
I think the guy, um, I think the family that ran a restaurant where we came by, they were already closed. Their door was open, but they were already closed. And they opened up the whole restaurant for us
Mm.
and made us all several dishes. Maybe they heated them up in the microwave. I don't know, but they put out a whole spread for us because to them there was that they knew that there's something. You're not just a customer, you're precious to us, and I sense in the guy in the tea shop that he understood that, and it wasn't just about how tired he was, or that he already had my money, but he seemed to value that in us, and for whatever reason we were able to see it that night in him, especially, that there was something inside of him that was precious. And so then you've got to take that and take it to your interactions with other people. And it's probably there in them too. If it's there in him, if it's there in us, if we're beginning to, because of him awakening that, and I'm beginning to see that in myself. And when I can see it in myself, maybe it's in other people too. That there's that part of them that's like that. So that, I don't know. There's so many of these lessons. These are just real short chapters, real short things that I wrote down a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
But almost every single one of them, there's still things that I'm learning from what was born in and around the tea shop.
And I'll tell you this: the one thing that my big takeaway from this is that it's rare that we get insight into the waypoints of someone's personal journey.
Mm.
But this is almost. I mean, and it's not like one of those play-by-play things, where almost you're so immersed in it that you're bored by it. No, this is a very moving, very fluid, very conversational, very immersive, very experiential walk through your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that it's really, I really feel like, Karl, you and I are friends, besides being, colleagues and all of that. But I feel like I know you better as a person from
Mm-hmm.
reading this.
Yeah.
It's almost, I got to see inside a realm of your life that not many people get to see. And it's really amazing that you have that level of transparency in this.
Yeah. The next book that I'm publishing in January is a continuance of this, and it talks about the subtitle says a journey towards authenticity and presence,
Yep.
which was born here. And that I think that's been the goal with all my books so far. The first one was about my deconstruction. This is about that pivotal moment in the tea shop and all the things around that.
Yeah.
The next one's about my shadow journey and trying to get healed up, and move on further down the road. But I don't know that that's not the real thing. We talk so long about evangelism and discipleship and things like that.
Mm.
I think the real deal, when it's all kind of sorted out, is that we share life together.
Yeah.
that's not just an extra strategy. I think, that's the real deal.
Yeah, that's really the whole of humanity. That
Right.
that how do we share one
Mm.
another in the space that we call now?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
tell us how can we get a copy of the tea shop? How do we get in touch with Karl Forehand? What are the particulars, man? Give us the 411.
Yeah, so my thing is called The Desert Sanctuary. So the book you can get on Barnes and Noble or Amazon. It goes live on the 22nd of September, um, which is coming up really fast. and but the desertsanctuary.org, Desert Sanctuary Facebook group. If you
Yeah,
find me on Facebook, though, I'm pretty much over promoting everything that I do. So you'll find the books and so on. The books eventually get to like online Walmart and online Target and stuff
sure.
like that. So
How about a website? Do you have a website by chance?
yeah, it's called thedesertsanctuary.org, thedesertsanctuary.org. It has a little problem. You can get to it real easy, but if you try to repost it on Facebook, they don't like me for some reason. Everybody kind of has their battle, I guess, with Facebook. Every once in a while, the algorithms get upset.
Yeah, I thought I was going to wind up in Facebook jail this week. I was making a lot of posts, and you get that thing that says, "Hey, you can't post anymore at this time."
Yeah, stop
uh,
it.
yeah, but then I didn't actually wind up in jail, so it was like just for a few hours, and then it's back to normal again. So anyway, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, this is Karl Forehand. This is my friend. This is my brother. He is an awesome author, awesome husband, awesome father, awesome teacher. And this book, The Tea Shop, you gotta get this. You gotta get this. This is going to bless you.
Yeah.
And I don't toss around the word bless, just
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
almost like a trite Christian euphemism, but I'm not. I actually believe that this
Yeah.
book has been a true gift. It was a gift from you, but it's a gift to me,
Good.
and I appreciate it.
I'm
So,
glad you enjoyed it.
Karl, that's what we have.